we're back. Alright, I've been getting a few requests to do this next video. So here we go. We're gonna do it. Alright, this is getting started becoming a master hacker. Video 4. Alright, let's go. Let me make sure I got everything running. Alright, information gathering using DNS. As you know, the domain name system, or DNS, is a protocol used by the internet to translate domain names into IP addresses, and vice versa. I gotta clean my glasses. It stores information on every domain, enabling us to type in a domain name, Microsoft.com, to access the website, versus remembering thousands of IP addresses. This database of domain names and URLs can be used to gather information on our target without ever having to touch the target's computer or networks. It can reveal a surprising amount of information that can be fed back into our attack. By querying the DNS database, we can gather information while appearing to be a typical DNS query and not alerting security devices or admins of our activities. If you want to look up some more stuff, you can go here. Okay. Let's click on this. Whoa. Alright, Hackers Arise. So this is his Hackers Arise website of Occupy the Web. And if you go here, you can check out some DNS stuff, which is pretty damn cool. Alright. Querying DNS about the target. As most of you know, DNS can be queried directly by using the NS lookup and dig commands. Working from Linux, we can use either. But if we're working from the Windows, we are limited to NS. If we're working from Windows, we are limited to NS lookup. I'm assuming that most of you have used these utilities, so I won't go into great detail here, but I'll instead provide a brief review for those of you who are new to the subject. Although we can use both NS lookup and dig from our Kali Linux, the dig command is simpler and provides more information and functionality. So I'll focus on it here. Let's assume we are looking for the name server of our favorite software company, Microsoft.com. We can use the following command: dig Microsoft.com NS. It should look like this, right? We're getting the header. All right, let's run that. Having technical difficulties over here with this app today. Let's see if I can get this running. So it was dig Microsoft.com domain NS. See if I have internet. I got internet. So what is this running? Oh, I just didn't update all this. Query time server. That looks like what we were supposed to get. Microsoft.com MX. Okay. Looks like we're getting what we're supposed to. Okay, Kali dig Microsoft NS, where the NS indicates we're looking for the name server. As you can see in the screenshot above, we're able to pull the name server's records, Microsoft.com. If we want the mail server records from Microsoft.com, we can query the DNS server with Kali dig Microsoft MX, where MX indicates we're looking for the mail server records. Let's try this one. Dig at 757575 Microsoft.com. Let's do that one. Dig at 75.75.75.75 Microsoft. Microsoft.com HackTheFile. See what we get. You know, you gotta remember this book's kind of old, so they might have fixed this already. As you can see in the screenshot, we successfully pulled the mail server records for Microsoft. Finally, we can attempt to do a zone transfer. In DNS terminology, a zone transfer is an update to DNS. Records on Microsoft.com by entering dig at 7575. We're at 7575 is the IP address of the DNS server. AFXR is the command for a zone transfer. Note that zone transfers are malicious and only possible on improperly configured DNS servers. In our case here, the DNS server would not allow us to do a zone transfer. Brute forcing subdomains using DNS enum.pl. With Kali, we have several DNS information gathering tools. DNS enum is Perl script and an excellent tool for automation to extract all the DNS information. We have been extracted above manually and more. Open a terminal and enter DNS enum at the prompt. Note that DNS enum syntax is relatively simple. DNS enum.pl option domain. In our case, we are using DNS enum to attempt a dictionary attack on the subdomains of Kali.org with the DNS file supplied by the script developers. You can use your own if you like. To do this, we need to use the -f switch and the absolute path for our list of potential subdomain names. User share DNS enum /DNS text, and then the domain we want to search for subdomains. So let's come over here and try this and see what it says. Close that. Let's look up this, find out what this file is. So user share. Let's see if it's in the same place. The hell's my user at? User share DNS enum. Alright, there it is. DNS.text. Take this, copy it, make this small, open a terminal here. We'll start running that. So DNS enum -f, copy and paste that here. Kali.org. And it's not going to work because brute force with user shared DNS.text. We're going to let that do its thing, and we're going to read about it, what we just did. In our case, we're using DNS enum to attempt a dictionary attack on the subdomains of Kali.org. With the DNS file supplied by the script developers, you can use your own file if you like. To do this, we need to use the F switch and the absolute path to our list of potential subdomain names. And that's the actual same path that works. And then the domain we want to search for subdomains. In this case, we use www.kali.org. We could write our command list like this. That's what we put in. As you can see below, once we hit enter, DNS enum begins by enumerating name servers and mail servers with Kali.org. And then this tries to brute force subdomains using the list of potential subdomains we provided and the Class C net transies. Finally, it attempts a zone transfer unsuccessfully. Name servers, try and transfer zone, getting blind versions. So, if I was pen testing and they gave me the website and they gave me the whitelist to go ahead and run tools like this against it, this is what you would do to get all these subdomains and stuff. Especially if they said, yeah, you can run tools on the website, whatever you want to do, to test our defense. And if you ran this and you were able to do a zone transfer, then you would write that down and you'd put that in your notes, right? And you take screenshots. Let me look this up real quick for everybody because I am wanting some clarification on this. All right, zone transfer in the context of DNS enum on the Kali Linux refers to an attempt to retrieve the entire DNS zone file from a domain's authoritative name server. This file contains mapping of the domain names to IP addresses and other DNS records. Jeez. Essentially, a blueprint of the domain's internal structure. So, uh, like it said, um, if the domain is not configured correctly, you can get their whole uh, network, basically IP addresses and other DNS records. Domain's internal structure. A DNS zone transfer, or AXFR, is what we ran, is a mechanism used by DNS servers to replicate their databases across multiple servers for redundancy and load balancing. It is intended for authorized secondary DNS servers to sync with the primary server. However, if misconfigured, anyone can request a zone transfer and get a full list of subdomains, IPs, and sensitive DNS records. Man, that is just crazy. That is a crazy powerful tool that, that's why it's in here getting started with, becoming a master hacker, is because, if you're running a pen test for a company and they're like, go ahead and do all this. This is what you're doing it for. You're going to run tools like this, take pictures, and if it's misconfigured, you're going to get a whole, man, you get their subdomains, you get the domains. I mean, it's just a wonderful way to just infiltrate all their machines and stuff, right? If, they're going to give you permission to run this stuff, and I mean, that's a vulnerability, right? If it comes back. So this is a great tool to use, and I might even use it in my project, my master's project. I might, make Metasploitable vulnerable and run this one instead of Nmat, right? Because if I run this and I can get it, I can get it to map their whole damn system. That'd be great. All right, but okay, let's keep going. Querying the target's DNS cache to determine its antivirus software. Oh God, that's another good one. All right, hold up. Let's see. Now that we understand a bit about how we can cultivate DNS service for information, let's look at another more sophisticated use of DNS for providing information on the target. I've included this technique not because of its practicality, but for its ingenuity and creativity. Two essential attributes of the master hacker. As a hacker, it is often critical to know what antivirus software the target is running. Unless you have created or brought a zero-day exploit, it will likely be detected and quarantined by antivirus software. As a result, your days or weeks or months of work will be lost. Not all antivirus software is the same though. Some are good, some are bad, some detect certain malware, and some detect others. As a result, an attacker may work against an antivirus and not against another. If we can know ahead of time what antivirus the target is using, we can tailor an attack that evades the software. When firms have their own DNS server, their server caches every DNS query from every employee. If we can examine the DNS cache, we can see every domain that has been queried. This means that we can examine the DNS cache, we can determine which AV software domain, semantic, McAfee, Kaspersky, Mac, whatever the hell, it has been queried and which has not. The target company will be using one or all of the AV domains in this list. We don't know which, but we do know that AV companies not on the list are not being used. That information alone can help us determine which attack works. As this is more of an intermediate to advanced reconnaissance technique, I will simply leave you with a link where you can learn more at Hackers Arrives. bring this over here. Hackers rise. Oops, can't be found. So it's an old address. That's fine. Oh, that's why, because that wasn't the whole. Oh God, it's tweaking. Summary: the DNS system can be a repository of a significant amount of information about a target, including the name server, mail server, and many subdomains. Many of these subdomains may not be obvious, and the target company may believe that they are unviewable because there's no links to them. Very often, these subdomains may contain confidential and valuable information to a hacker. So, if I can get it, here's the reality, and here's the part of my French, the fucking beauty of it. I'm fluent in French actually. So, the beauty of it is, if this actually works and and you can get that information of the subdomains and stuff, then there's a number of things you can do, right? Once you scan the subdomains, you get the subdomains, you can scan for vulnerabilities. If you're in one of the main domains, you can scan for subdomains. You can actually try to get into well, once you're in the network, I guess. But it's a great thing to be able to go from one to the other, because let's say they have a bunch of different subdomains, right? And if you don't know what subdomain is, you got to Google it and you got to look it up. Learn some more about networking. Networking is king in pen testing, ethical hacking. I don't care what you are. You have to understand how the networks work, and it's not that they're difficult, right? You just need to understand how they're configured. Maybe try to configure some, and set up some VLANs, and set up some subdomains and some main domains. That way you understand, and then you have to understand that they're going to have firewalls, right? They have rules between each other, but they can only set up rules in their network that they need to, so that allows them to be available, right? So the CIA triad is the main philosophy when people are setting up their networks, right? This is a reality, right? So, and everything costs time and money. So if you're setting up a firewall with the CIA triad, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Availability is part of that, right? Your availability. So if I have a bunch of machines, I'm gonna call them machines because they can be anything. They can be servers, they can be desktop. I don't care what they are. Servos, PLCs, whatever. I have a bunch of different machines on this network, on these subdomains, or on this one subdomain, right? And they need to communicate with each other. Then you have to set the fire up like that. And then some machines will need to communicate with other domains, with other VLNs or other subdomains, or the main domain network or whatnot, and they need to communicate. They might have remote access. They might, so there's so many vulnerabilities that can be exposed, and just knowing their subdomains is it's a wonderful way to start, right? Because that's where you start. You find out your network, and then you go from there. And you need to see how to find out any of the subdomains. Now usually they're hidden, right? But they're not going to be hidden usually from the ones that are inside the network with each other in the same subdomain or something. You can't have one machine that's not able to talk to the other. One of the machines is going to be able to talk to the other one, and then another machine is going to be able to, has to be able to talk to another domain or something, right? That's just the way it is. The problem is compromising them. They might have passwords, they might not have passwords, but all these scans and information is just great. Okay. POF, or passive operating system detection. As part of the reconnaissance of our targets, let me see where we're at over here. The champ is working. Got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to make this a 30-minute video. POF, or passive operation system detection. As part of the reconnaissance of our targets, one of the most critical pieces of information we need is the target operating system. I hope it is apparent that macOS exploits do not work against Windows systems and vice versa. Well, yeah, because they're different operating systems. What may not be obvious is that Windows Vista exploits may not work against Windows 7 systems. Well, that's obvious as well. It's that you have different vulnerabilities, different operating systems. In many cases, a Windows 7 SP1 exploit may not work against a Windows 7 SP2. The point I'm trying to make is that the knowledge of operating systems of the target is critical for our success, right? Without this information, we're likely wasting our time and effort. In this lesson, we will look at a tool known as p0f. Okay. The name is an acronym for Passive Operating System Fingerprinting. .pof files upon an understanding of how each of the operating systems, TCP/IP, stack, implements, and builds their packets to determine the OS of the sender. In this way, it is totally passive. We don't need to touch the target system with packets or anything else, and this tool enables us to determine the target's operating system without sending any packets or probes to the target. Oh my god. TCP/IP basics. There are many ways to determine the operating system of a target. For instance, specific ports or services are only open on Windows systems, 1433 for SQL servers and 137 for NetBIOS. And some ports only on Linux systems, 631 for IPP. This kind of fingerprinting will at least divide the world into those two broad camps, Windows V and Linux. But it is a pretty limited method. For some Windows systems don't have those parts, 1433 and 137 ports open. And some Linux systems don't have that port, 631 open. Second, sometimes knowing a broad camp of OS is not enough information. We need a more refined understanding of operating systems versions, sometimes down to the service pack level. Some tools throw many probes at the system and then gauge the response to determine the operating system. These tools are very noisy and not very stealthy, but in general will work if the fingerprints are up to date. What if we wanted to determine the operating system without even touching the system and risking being detected? Can we do that? The answer is a definitive yes. A few years back, Michael Zalewski developed a tool called POF, or Passive Operating System Fingerprinting. POF and other passive fingerprinting tools rely upon the fact that different operating systems have different TCP/IP stacks, and therefore create these packets slightly differently. This means that we can take any packet traveling around the internet, and if we know what we are looking for, determine what operating system sent it. That's crazy as hell. The four critical fields of the TCP/IP header that are crucial for the OS identification are the type of service, the flags, and the time to live, and the window. I'm going to take a picture of this because I love this type of shit. Wow. So I take a picture of that and then I put that in my background desktop pictures because that's just cool as shit. I recommend you do the same. So I got a file called desktop pictures and I just paste cool stuff in it, like these pictures. Son of a bitch. TOS, TTL, DF flags, window size, type of service, flags, time to live, TTL, and Windows flags. In this diagram below, I have circled the fields in the IP header, TOS, TTL, and DF, and the TCP header window size. Let's take a look at each of these fields. First, the type of service of the IP header TOS field that can have four different values: minimize delay, maximize throughout, maximize reliability, minimize monetary costs. Second, the flags field. The flags field shouldn't be confused with the TCP flags, SAFUPR. The TCP stack sets this field as either D or M, don't fragment, or more fragments. This is the way that the IP protocol signals to the receiver whether more packet fragments are on the way. If we get packets with the M flag set, the receiver can hold the packets and reassemble them into a complete packet. Third, TTL, or time to live. This field indicates how many hops the packet should make before it expires. Windows system usually has this set to 32 and Linux system 64, although it does vary. Finally, let's examine the window or window size. This field defines how much buffer the TCP stack has to buffer packets. Remember that one of the beauties of TCP is that it has flow control. If one side is sending packets too quickly, for the other to process, the sender can buffer the packets. Window size defines the size of that buffer. This field can carry more information about the identity of the sender than any other field in either header. Nearly every operating system has a different window size. Now that we understand what the p0f does, let's put it to work on some packets. Let's look to see what it says. We want to run. What do we want to run? p0f-help. Let's see what this is. Oh, p0. Let's look up here. Yeah, I don't think I got it. Little p. What in the hell is that? An O or a 0? See if I can run some other commands. Okay. p0f is pre-installed on Kali So no need to install it. It's built-in command line. User bin parent we can command line anywhere. Okay. User bin directory and user bin is in our path variable. We can access it from the command line from anywhere. Cali. Let's look at it. Its help file by typing. Please note the middle character is the number 0, not the letter O. So I put the p0f. Yeah, it's installing it. So was it installed or what? I'm running this update because I just installed something, so I'm going to do an update. Alright, now let's p0f-h. So here's the help file. You can always use your help file. So I got the newest version, invalid H option. Network interface listens on a specific network. Here's my options. Read fingerprint. Okay. Alright. So we're good on that. As you can see above, p0f has a brief but complete help file. The first stanza addresses the network interface option. The second stanza is the operation mode. And the third stanza is the performance option. In its simplest form, you can run p0f by simply typing the command followed by an interface and then the name of the interface you want to p0f to listen on. In this case, etho. p0f etho. When we start p0f, it begins listening on the designated interface and then decoding the information from each packet that appears. I'm not going to do that because I'm actually connected to the internet right now, so I ain't doing none of that. But that's what it would look like. Tell you the operating system and everything. As you can see, at first p0f opens, then loads 320 signatures, listens on the network, and then ensures the main event loop. When it sees a packet at the interface, it begins to decode it. First, it tells us what IP address and port it's coming from, and the TCP flag that is set. There's the SYN handshake. Next, it tells us what OS fits the fingerprint for this packet. Windows 7, Windows 8. The next stanza, it tells us what the link is, Ethernet, modem. If you scroll down a bit, we can see the information above describing the browser we use too. That's pretty cool. Now, I'm not gonna do that because I don't want nobody to know my what WAN I'm using or anything, right? But if I took this off the internet, like if I took my Kali Linux is on the internet right now because I wanted to do run updates and stuff. But if I take it off and restart it and run this, it's only going to show you I think everything on the network, on my closed network, and I don't have anything running. Okay. But this is cool. So like, what would I do if I was on a network for somebody's network? Man, let's try sending packets from another Kali Linux system. Kali is built on Debian Linux and Linux kernel. Depending on what version of Kali you're running, the kernel is either this or that. If the p0f is accurate, should be able to fingerprint the packet. As you can see, the screenshot above, p0f was able to determine the OS, Linux, newer, pretty accurate, wouldn't you say? p0f can also determine the uptime for a target system. This can be key in determining how long it's been since the system admins patched the target system. Security patches usually require a reboot of the system. As we can scan down the output of the Kali decoding, we can see that the p0f has determined that the system has been up for 6 days, 16 hours, 60 minutes. This is very helpful information. Summary: before beginning the attack, it is crucial to learn as much as possible about the target to increase the chance of success. There are numerous tools we can use to gain information without ever contacting the target from sources that have previously collected this information. There are known as passive reconnaissance techniques, or sometimes referred to as open source techniques, or OSINT. Google, Netcraft, Shodan, DNS all have valuable information that can assist tailor your attacks. So remember these, right? All these stuff that we went through, because that's part of the reconnaissance phase. If you're attacking somebody, or if you have pen testing somebody, or whatever, there's different tools you can use to do a lot of fucking, pardon my French, a lot of reconnaissance. Okay? A tool like p0f is capable of determining the target's operating system, browser, user agent, and uptime. If we can entice the target with our website, to our website. Hold on, let's read this again. A tool like p0f is capable of determining the target's operating system, browser, and agent, and uptime. If we can entice the target to our website. All this information will be crucial in determining which approach will most likely be successful in our attack. And this gives you exercises. Use Shodan to find Windows servers. You guys, especially the people that were requesting this, and like, I had a couple new people joining, subscribing. They were like, just show the screen so we can play with it. That's exactly why I do this. So pause it here. Do exercise 1. Okay, so if you can read that, use Shodan.io to find Windows Server's 2008 systems that might be vulnerable to the NSA Eternal Blue exploit. So you're gonna have to watch previous videos. I would pause it here and practice some of this. Use DNS enum to find the name server, mail server, and subdomains of your favorite website. So, I gotta love Occupy the Web. I really, really, really like his books because he doesn't he doesn't say be careful what websites you're doing, because he knows that all this is legal. This is all legal, man. If they have a website and anybody has a website up, you can run all these tools on them. It's legal. The only thing is is what you're doing with the information. That could be illegal. So he doesn't say that on here, but I think he already said it once, right? What you're doing with the information is could be potentially legal. So I would say just be careful. Man, I might be dying. Just be very careful when you're doing all this, okay? Now he says, use DNS enum to find the name servers, mail servers on your favorite website. Just be very careful when you're doing that. Okay? Try using p0f to determine the operating system and other information system someone is visiting your website. Um, okay. Look up the technologies used by your favorite website with netcraft.com. This is what I would do. I would like go and research more p0f. Yeah. Research more of this and find out how this actually works. Look up the technology used by your favorite website with netcraft.com, because that's another recon tool we used, I guess. Try out some of Google 6 hacks at exploitdb.com and see whether you can find vulnerability information. This is a cool. Let's look this up. Right, I just copied that. I love this new app. Let's shut this down. Okay. Putting this bad boy over here. That's not copy or what? Lord have mercy. Exploit-db.com. So I always got to delete this whole thing. Exploit database. Oh, I forgot about exploit database. What does it want us to do with this? Try out some of the Google 6 hacks. No, it actually found the Google 6 stuff. No mention records found. No Google 6. Google 6, okay. Google Chrome. Man, so you can play around with this, and what I would damn, and what I would do is I would look up how to use exploit database. I might have to make another video on how to actually use this, because it's kind of, or you could just go in and just mess with it and see how to use it. It shouldn't be that bad, but you can search for exploits. Okay. I'm gonna leave this up because I'm gonna play with this for a little bit, but I mean, there's plenty of things to do, so try that. But that's how you do this one. Okay, this is how you read that one. There he is. Occupy the web. Active reconnaissance. Next chapter. All right, so that's it. That was HackTheFile. For all you guys that were requesting this video, do that. If you guys want to see a video and you want me to do a quick video, do what you did, request it and say, hey, we want to see this video, and then I'll get it done. And I'll see how fast I can do it. But it's been really busy. You got to remember, I'm a teacher as well, so I got to grade papers and do all kinds of other stuff. So this is a hobby of mine, and I do this hobby for myself, but for you guys as well too. So if you need me to look at like a previous video and do the next video for it because you're waiting for it, you've been waiting too long for it or whatever, just let me know and I'll get it done. All right, this was HackTheFile. I hope you learned something. I did. I thought that was really cool and fun, and I'll see you on the next one.